it becomes practical, extremely simple once you start having insight into these principles, into the inside out nature, into very simply, you become more aware of, more conscious of how thought works. So you become more aware of it's only your thinking and holding your thinking that will cover up your well-being. And you become more aware of underneath all my thinking is perfect well-being.
Välkommen till podden Human Change med Daniel Magnusson. Fastnar du ofta i tankar kring oro, stress och irritation? Tror du att allt beror på att det är fel på dig? Då vill jag välkomna dig till podden som guidar dig till förståelse om hur vi människor fungerar egentligen. Genom denna förståelse kan vi leva ett liv fullt av kärlek och harmoni. Ditt ljus och hopp när allt verkar mörkt och hopplöst. Så låt nu Daniel guida dig till den stillhet vi alla letar efter. Där slutstationen är välmående och glädje. Lyssna och njut.
Välkommen till Human Change med mig Daniel Magnusson. And now I will switch to English as I always do, really quick, because I have an English-speaking guest. And today I have Dr. Dicken.bettinger, and I've been looking forward to this conversation and thinking for a long time, like, yeah, it would be nice to have Dicken here and have a conversation with him, and now I'm finally here with you, Dicken. Very welcome, and thank you for taking the time to be here.
It's lovely to be here. I know we were talking earlier about the trip I took to Sweden and how much I enjoyed being there, and did a training in Jönköping.
Yeah. A couple of years back.
Yeah, a few years back for sure.
Yeah. And for people who doesn't know you started psychology and for 45 years ago, and you were a psychologist for 10 years, and then you met Sydney Banks, and that changed, and I want to know more about that. It changed the way, I guess, in some way, how you treated and met clients and patients in that case, I guess. But then you also a board member of 3PGC, the Three Principles Global Community.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, that's right. Strongly dedicated to bringing Sid Banks' message to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how long has that global community? When did that got founded?
Well, Sid Banks died in 2009, and he asked a number of good friends, please do the best you can to try and keep my message alive and pointing in the right direction, and do the best you can to make the materials that are now available, make them available to anyone in the world. And so we started Three Principles Global Community, and that's what we've been doing ever since. So a number of people that were directly mentored by Sid for many years are on the board, and it's very exciting to see it. Communities of interest formed in almost every country in the world now. It's unbelievable how it's spread.
Yeah, and it's a important, I would say, message and spreading the understanding. And I came into this 2019. I started listening to Michael Neal, and then really deep dived into it in 2020. And of course, my eyes opened, so I started seeing these kind of messages, books and podcasts and videos, because of course I knew what to look for. But it seems like it's building and building and building and building in some
Yes.
sense.
Yes.
Both the understanding in people in general who come in contact with it, but also people who are working with it to spread the message and help educating, pointing, guiding, and coaching in that direction.
Yes.
So, that I think that's, and I think one way is, of course, the technology is getting better and better, to easy to spread and so on. So hopefully compared to when Sydney Banks discovered this in 1973, right?
Yeah.
Was not so much internet back then, for example.
Oh my gosh. There were just a few little cassette tapes of that people recorded while Sid was talking. And they were such poor quality, and we'd copy them so many times, and you could barely hear through all the static. And then when I started, Sid had written 2 of his 6 books, and that's all there were.
Yeah.
That's all there were. Then a couple of books and a couple of tapes if you could get your hands on them. And boy, the internet sure has changed things.
Yeah, definitely. And the first book he wrote, is that Second Chance?
Yes.
Or, yeah. And the second book, which one was
In
that?
Quest of the Pearl.
Okay, the follow-up.
In Quest of the Pearl, the follow-up. And then he wrote The Missing Link.
Yeah.
And then Enlightened Gardener, then Dear Liza, and then Enlightened Gardener Revisited. We just did a 3PGC, the Three Principles Global Community has done a book series that are available, where we had people that were mentored by Sid, a couple of people for each book, share their reflections on the book. So we went through all 6 books. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
We just had the last session, and it went on for a number of months, but those recordings are available for people on the 3pgc.org website.
Yeah. Interesting. I did see an email about that, that
Yes.
was planned and started.
It went better than any of us thought, Daniel, because it was an opportunity to share Sid's remarkable discoveries as simply as we could, based on our own time with Sid and being with him, and what things he said to us and things he did, and how our lives changed as we worked with this man who had this spontaneous enlightenment experience, and to benefit from where he knew to point us so we could wake up to our own mini experiences of enlightenment, if you will.
Yeah.
Glimpses. He'd call them little glimpses, or sniffing the fumes, but boy, it would be life-changing.
Yeah. And regarding life-changing, you've been working as a psychologist for 10 years, and then you met Sydney Banks. And how did that happen? And that was for 35 years ago.
Yes. Well, I was an avid reader as a psychologist, and I would probably reading 3 psychology books or spiritual books a week.
A week?
A week.
Oh, okay.
It was really like an addiction. I was desperately searching for what could help me and my clients have more well-being, because that's what I was interested in. And every book had a different theory and different suggestions or techniques or steps. So before I met Sid, I was a searcher, constantly searching for well-being in techniques and in other people's teachings. And so I was meditating 4 hours a day. I was trained myself to wake up at the end of REM sleep every night. So I had 5 full-length written out dreams every night that I would work on the next day. I had notebooks where I wrote down what I was thinking and tried to reframe it. I had behavioral strategies. I had affirmation notebooks. I had structured journals. So all but 4 hours in a 24-hour period, I was working on those things.
It's like a full-time
I'd sleep
job.
for 4 hours. I figured I needed a minimum of 4 hours. And so I was, my wife would say, you work harder on yourself than anybody I know. And I thought it was a compliment. I said, well, thank you. I know. You know, you won't catch me slacking. And then I met Sid Banks. And it wasn't until later I realized that all of psychology, when I met Sid Banks, Yale University counted up, and there were 450 different theoretical approaches in psychology. Isn't that interesting? 450 different theoretical approaches where everybody had a different theory. So people, cognitive therapists, divided up into different camps because different people had different theories. The existential humanistic people had different theories and different camps, and the behaviorists had different theories and different camps, and you had the Freudians and all different theories and camps, and the Jungians and Adlerians, and on and on and on and on and on. And it was extremely complicated, psychology was. And there were no principles. But it turns out that of all the people in the 450 different theories, they were basically sharing the same paradigm, was that there are factors outside of a human being that cause people to feel the way they do. And that's one assumption. The other assumption that's fundamental to the old paradigm, that's not scientific, by the way, because it's not based on principles. The second foundation is that people don't have well-being, they have to develop it. So all of psychology was a self-improvement model. There's something wrong with you, you're broken, and you need to be fixed, and it's going to take a long time, and you're going to have to do a lot of hard work to develop your well-being so you can be a healthy person.
That is long away from hopeful, getting that kind of message.
It's not hopeful, and no one was talking about if you had been labeled by one of the umpteen gazillion different labels for mental illness. There was no real hope for cure, only coping strategies and self-improvement strategies that could at least help you live a passable life. And then Sid Banks comes along. I meet Sid, and he was talking about psychology different than any other of the 450 different psychological theories I was studying. he had had an enlightenment experience that was spontaneous. It happened to him spontaneously. And he was a welder with a 9th grade education, and he wasn't interested in psychology or spirituality for that matter. And he had this experience. I said, Sid, did you have a near-death experience? It sounds like that. You went into this white light and you lost all sense of personal identity, and you experienced this most beautiful dimension of life, and you experienced feeling of well-being more intense than you ever have, and called it the purest of love. And you came back a changed person from that brief experience, and suddenly you become a world teacher talking about the fundamental principles that can explain all of psychology. And I'm going, is this guy for real? What are these principles? So I got really curious. So when I heard about him, I went to hear him talk. And he was the most down-to-earth, ordinary person. And he said, when I had this experience, it seemed ordinary to me. I just went beyond the influence of my conceptual mind so far that I had no sense of personal self labeled by my thinking, but I was fully present and wide awake and experienced a depth of well-being. And I knew that I had discovered our true nature that's inside of every human being. And that we get little glimpses of that all the time, and we don't realize we're tapping into our innate well-being. So everybody I know at times gets really present. In order to get present, you cannot think about anything and be present. How about that? Anytime someone gets present, they have to let go of what they're thinking, or they can't be present.
Yeah.
If we're not present, we can't say hello to our friends. We can't walk down the street. We can't walk through a room without bruising our shins, right? We can't drive a car. It's the most ordinary thing in the world, but people haven't been taught that when we're present, all of that thinking we were involved in falls away more and more. And then without trying or doing anything, we start to feel better. And when our minds are quiet and we are feeling these natural innate feelings arising, we do better in anything. Why is that? Because we have more knowing about life and about what to do that would be healthy or helpful. So Sid says, what I realized when I had my experience was that within all of us, we're connected to the energy of the infinite energy of the universe. And what I realized is that there are three fundamental aspects of that energy of the universe that are foundationally true for every human being. That energy has an intelligence about it because it knows out of that formless energy how to create everything that has form, and it knows how to create it and operate it, including our physical bodies and our psychological systems. Knows how to create and operate it. As an intelligence, knows how to create nature. Knows how to operate trees and flowers and animals and amoebas. So that intelligence he called the universal mind, because it's built into the very fabric of the universe. in quantum physics, they say within the infinite quantum formless field of energy, there's all kinds of innate information or knowing, because out of nothing comes something is science. Out of the quantum field, at the subatomic level, matter is just temporary condensations of energy. So he called that the principle of mind, that we're all connected to this intelligent information field. Now, that's no different than what the quantum scientists are saying. He says another quality of this energy is consciousness. It's a conscious field. This is why brain researchers have not been able to find consciousness anywhere in the brain, because it's non-physical. So anything that's created out of this conscious field has awareness, because it's made of awareness. Every single cell has awareness. It will respond to light and pressure and heat, and it'll move toward food sources. And in human beings, the principle of consciousness is fundamental. All human beings have a mind capable of having psychological experience. All people are aware beings, and this force of consciousness brings to life our senses so we can be aware of life, see life, hear life, taste life, touch life. It's the source of all of our feelings, this power. And then the third principle says this formless energy can take very specific forms as it's full of creative potential. And in human beings, that's the power of thought, so that we're capable of having any kind of thought-created experience. So every human being is connected to this field of energy the same way a wave is connected to the ocean. And so the wave is connected to the power of the ocean, the currents, the movement, the form that it takes as a wave, the size, the movement. And we're just like that. We're waves on the ocean of universal mind, consciousness, and thought. These are not theories. These are forces that have always been here and always will be here. And you can call them different names, but that doesn't change the fact that there are forces that are here that are creating life and operating life and allowing life to be aware and allowing life to move toward thriving and well-being. It's a different paradigm.
Yeah.
It's what we now call the inside-out paradigm. Inside is formless energy coming into form. Inside out. Psychology had been operating under a misunderstanding for hundreds of years. A friend of mine, who is a professor emeritus at Wayne State University, just wrote a book called Upside Down and Backwards: The Innocent Failure of Mainstream Psychology. And it's not an attack on mainstream psychology. It's just pointing out how the paradigm psychology has been operating under ultimately doesn't give people hope or cure. And the subtitle for this is An Enlightened, Flourishing Life via Understanding, the three principles that create our psychological lives, filled with research and evidence and YouTube talks about these different topics. And it places this paradigm within the whole field of psychology and talks about how Sydney Banks' realizations of 3 universal principles that can explain all psychological functioning, and to connect this formless energy dimension of life back up with human beings and their psychology so that they're not separate, is radical, is revolutionary. And so you can imagine, here I am, a psychologist with the training I had that reinforced this outside-in paradigm of there are umpteen causes for our unhappiness, and you can be damaged as a human being, and you have to work really hard to gain your well-being, and it's a endless process. 2, hearing about a whole new paradigm where Sid would say, and it's the first time I had heard anybody say to me, because you are connected to this infinite field of intelligent, wise energy, you have perfect well-being inside of you, always. And it can't be damaged or broken because it's formless energy. Now, this is scientific. The top scientists at the North American Space Agency recently published research findings after years of studying the energy of not the multiverses, but our universe, the energy within our universe. And they said, this is their conclusion: if you take everything that can be seen with instrumentation, from the most powerful microscope, so all the planets, all the stars, they just found within our Milky Way 3.3 billion suns, stars, just within the strip of sky that is our Milky Way. Within that strip, they have now counted 3.3 billion stars. And then if you take everything that can be seen with the most powerful subatomic microscopes, so the electrons, neutrinos, protrinos, and you factor in the energy of everything that has any kind of form, from the smallest subatomic particle to the largest star within our universe, what percentage of the energy of our universe does that take up, the world to form? They say it's 4%. 4%. So that means 96% of our universe, this is part of their conclusion, is dark energy, formless, invisible energy, or dark matter, which is another formless, can't be seen, can't be measured dimension of the universe. So you could say mind consciousness. Sid would say mind is a formless energy characterized by a formless intelligence that knows how to create everything in form that has intelligence. Consciousness is a formless energy that knows how to create awareness in everything that is created, so we can be aware of both source and what is created. And thought, I had never heard anybody talk about thought this way before, as a formless universal energy that's full of creative potential, that takes form as the infinite variety of psychological experiences human beings can have. So, okay. Shall I keep going here?
Yeah, I'm thinking like,
Shall I stop? You have
no,
questions,
no.
or should I
No.
continue sort of the way that impacted me personally and professionally?
Yeah, definitely, because I'm thinking like you coming to that, reading read tons of books, doing 4 hours meditation,
Yeah.
sleeping 4 hours, focusing on thoughts, reframing, affirmations, and all you learn is like really, I mean, so challenged.
It's like living in a Newtonian view of life and suddenly being exposed to a quantum view of life. Suddenly having the field of psychology be not only about the 4%, but about the 100%. If you want to study psychology, it's originally the founder of American psychology was William James, and he said if principles were ever discovered, it was revolutionize psychology. That without principles, where everybody is making different guesses that aren't scientific, they're just my best theory, my best hypothesis. And so along comes this man with a 9th grade education who says, I've discovered that we're, as human beings, the human part is the 4%, the being part is the 96%, and our true self is 100%. And if we can begin to intuit the connection between this formless dimension, formless energy, the 96%, many people call that the spiritual dimension because it has no form, but it's dynamic. It's a dynamic energy full of intelligence and awareness and creative potential, right? That if you can just get into it a little sense of the connection between the spiritual and the psychological, and that life only works one way. The spiritual is the source of everything created. So on a practical level, every feeling any human being has is not caused by things in the world as we've been taught and assumed. Our jobs don't cause us stress. Somebody says something to us, it doesn't cause us to be angry. It doesn't hurt our feelings. If we feel good, it's not because we're on vacation. That every feeling is created from the power of thought manifesting into, you have a sad thought, you feel sad. You have a stressful thought, you feel stressed. You have a loving thought, you feel loving. If your head clears of all the thoughts that create your unhappiness, we're built, this intelligence knows how to create through us well-being. So it's our nature. I've traveled the world sharing these principles, and often I'll ask people just for fun, what are you feeling? And you'll get the full spectrum because we're talking about form.
Yeah.
You get a full spectrum. You have a room full of 65 people. You'll get 65 different feelings, basically. Oh, I'm really anxious, or I'm sad, or I'm elated, or I'm happy, or I'm enthusiastic, or I'm depressed, or this is normal. No judgment. We're going to be feeling whatever we're thinking for the rest of our life. It's not wrong or bad to feel what you're feeling. But then I ask the question, which is the interesting one. Okay, no matter what you're feeling, whether you're feeling really unhappy or happy, it doesn't matter. Where do you think it's coming from? And then you hear the theories. And it's always pointing towards something in the 4% as the cause of what I'm feeling.
Something in the world of form.
Something in the world of form. It's a person, a situation, the traffic, the weather, my past, my biochemistry, my parents, my job, the amount of work I have to do, who I'm with, what's happening in my life right now. Always, it's pointing toward a theory that's not scientific. Do you know there have been 600 research studies that one woman pulled together showing that adversity does not cause stress or upset? In the face of adversity, you never know what people are going to feel. Some people might feel frightened out of their minds, and it's not wrong or bad. They're just feeling whatever they're thinking.
Yeah.
Other people, though, will be calm. Always in crisis. There'll be plenty of people who are really calm. And then there'll be people who are unbelievably selfless and compassionate. So you might have a full range of people's experience in an adverse situation, from terror and fear and paralysis to selfless, loving compassion. And it's all created by the principles. Every bit of it. But without understanding where experience comes from, we suffer, because then we spend a lot of time misattributing why we're feeling bad, and we do a lot of thinking about it, or a lot of analyzing, trying to figure out what's going on and what to do. And that thinking is creating an experience. And typically that thinking is creating more stress, more tension, more upset.
Yeah. And I'm thinking also in these, when you could ask that kind of question as you had as an example there, sometimes, because some people, yeah, you know, me thinking of, so they are they have a clue in some sense, they see something, but usually interpret, but if that person hadn't said anything, or if that situation didn't happen, then I wouldn't be thinking of it, and that therefore so it's, sometimes it's like a mix of inside out and outside in. And
people don't understand that whatever we think, we're not wedded to, and it's not caused, and that it can change. So that if I'm in a situation and become fearful, if I understand it's because of the thinking I'm having and getting caught up in, it'll bring me back to the present moment. And in the present moment, the thinking that creates our tension, stress, and upset naturally subsides. And we start to be calmer. So we'll say, calm down, get a grip. We're basically saying, come back to the present and stop thinking about what you're thinking about the way you're thinking about it, because it's just keeping alive all of this upset. Now, little kids get upset, but they don't think about it or analyze, so they stay present. So they get over their upset very quickly, because that's what we call resilience. And it's built into everybody to be resilient. Adults who, when they feel upset, understand, oh, I'm just getting caught up in low quality thought, and it brings them back to the present moment, and they lighten up, calm down, can be just as resilient as little kids. And resilient, according to psychological studies, is the hallmark of well-being. People who are healthy are very resilient. They get upset and they're over it very quickly. They don't keep thinking about it, dwelling on it, perseverating, analyzing, overthinking, right? They leave it alone and it passes very quickly, and they come back up again and they have clarity, they feel better, And in that feeling better, they know better. Now, in sports, I played a lot of sports growing up. I learned that if I got really present, I would still have upset feelings, but I wouldn't get dragged down by them and they wouldn't affect my performance. And they started studying that phenomenon and called that being in the zone. Mm-hmm. But I didn't understand the principles that explain that. I thought it was just, I love playing football, soccer. Mm-hmm. I thought it was just what I was doing that allowed me to be present. Mm. I didn't know it was just my natural state, because when I walked off the field, I'd be right back caught up in my insecure thinking, be miserable. And then I'd have all these theories about why I was feeling miserable and all these things I thought I should be doing to fix that effect.
Yeah, and it's so easy for us to draw a connection between the activity in that case to as a trigger or something that is creating the well-being. Oh, I need to play soccer and football or tennis or paddle, or I don't know, whatever, as an example, to feel that.
It's a human trait. Yeah. The quality of everybody's thinking goes up and down. We call those moods. Mm-hmm. With understanding, people go through their low mood times well because they don't lean into that thinking. Now, most adults, when they feel down, do more thinking than when they're up, rather than less. So they think into it. Little kids don't do that, so they are resilient. Adults gradually lose their resilience, and then they get stuck in lower states. And if you hold on to negative thought, it's very painful. It's very, very painful. I mean, your hand can be open forever and it's not painful. You clench your fist and hold it. It's no time before it hurts. And we weren't meant to stay clenched. And yet, when we're feeling stress or tension, the tendency of most adults is to bear down on their thinking, to hold on. That's why the Buddhists say the source of suffering is holding, grasping, right? Clinging. That's the source of suffering. What's the cure for suffering? Understanding how that works, and then you naturally unclench, which is coming back to the present moment, and you rest in the now. And anytime we rest in the now, the clench falls away, the tension falls away, the stress falls away. And then wisdom brings us new and fresh. The clouds part, we come to blue sky of presence, and then the sun is always there to bring us warmth and nourishment. Right? Now, when we stop misattributing the source of our unhappiness and of our well-being, we call that having a greater understanding of the actual nature of things, nature of being a human being. So as your understanding goes up, your level of well-being goes up. You have more presence, more well-being, more feelings of well-being, more resilience, more ease at going through your downtimes, more creativity, more love. I'm glad I learned these principles 35 years ago. I've been married 52 years, and I keep living in the honeymoon stage of the relationship. We used to say, well, you start off in the honeymoon stage where you're so fully present, you're just exuding all this well-being onto the other person and in your life and walking around in that state a good part of the time. And then there's the disillusionment stage, and then, which just means you start getting caught up in your low mood thinking again. And then there's the conflict stage, and then there's the trying to negotiate your relationship stage, and then if you're lucky, you can get to a stage where you're starting to work stuff out. All right? That's the old paradigm's view of relationships. The new paradigm view of relationships, you're a thought away from the honeymoon state of mind.
Yeah.
You're a thought away from the present moment. And only in the present moment do we access well-being. No one can think their way to well-being. No one. And yet, most adults, when they don't feel good, do more thinking, and they get further and further. They cover up, innocently cover up their well-being. But the beautiful thing is, when we uncover it, say you're sitting in your house thinking about something that happened, and you're getting more and more angry, and your best friend comes to the door, and you become present, which means you let go of all that negative thinking you were doing. You get present, go, oh, hi, oh, it's good to see you. Man, I was just bumming out about this thing that happened. And then one of two things is going to happen. You're going to stay present and stay in lighthearted feelings where you laugh with your friend and enjoy, or you're going to start telling them about what happened and start thinking negative again and go right back into the pits. Isn't that interesting? We're free thinkers. We're absolutely free thinkers. We're free to think about whatever we want, and we're free to let go of thinking and return to the present moment, which people do all the time anyways. They just don't realize what's happening.
And getting these kind of small glimpses, as you said in the beginning, and in some way miss it, that it is a glimpse to well-being in some sense, right? And like, yeah, so, oh, how are you doing? Well, I'm feeling down. Oh, what happened? And then we're off track right away.
Yes. Well, it's all innocent. We've all been trained from when we're very, very little. Don't upset your father. You've hurt my feelings. This thing has stressed me out. And we are taught the outside-in paradigm from when we're very little. But the good news is it's not true and it's not scientific. So when you begin to hear what is true and what is scientific, it can wake you back up to, oh, it doesn't really work outside in. And I might forget it, but I can keep coming back to how I now am learning, realizing how it actually works. We have perfect well-being inside at all times, and it gets covered over when we get caught up in our thinking, especially our negative thinking. And that when we understand how that works, negative thinking is no longer a problem, a curse, or an illness. It's a gift. It's like our best friend. This feeling is wisdom's way of creating an alarm to wake us back up to the present moment so that we can access wisdom and love and well-being again to balance our life so we can live a fully balanced life. So we can use our intellect wisely, and when we're not using it wisely, getting caught up in negative thought, it lets us know. And if you understand how this works, then you're grateful when you feel stressed or upset, because it's just inviting you to let wisdom weigh in instead of being wedded to only the 4% of your intellect.
Wow.
I know. Listen, I've taught this in big companies with engineers. They love this. Because they have to deal with problems in business all the time. And they begin to find out, if I'm stuck on a problem, if I let go of everything I know and think I know and step into the unknown, if you will, I'll not only start feeling better, but I'll get new and fresh thinking. Without new and fresh thinking, nothing in business moves forward gracefully. Without new and fresh thinking, problems aren't resolved. You get a team of people who understand wisdom, they're so quiet and reflective, and they're not moving toward arguing what's already known, arguing opinions, right? They're doing the opposite. They're letting go of opinions that create tension and stress. And then they're seeing what new and fresh comes and then sharing that with each other. And then you get a team of creatives that can solve anything. I worked with one team, and they got to the point they would tell the president of the company, give us any insolvable problem your company has. Put us in a room, send us some food, and we'll come out with a solution. They weren't being arrogant. They just began to see we're connected to the intelligence of the universe. And if our minds are open and receptive, something new and fresh will come to us. It's not arrogant. It's just how we're built.
So then what happened and what changed your way to your approach in your practice after meeting sikt?
Well, it started really simple with me. I mean, I was someone who had learned how to do a lot of thinking that made me anxious. You could say I learned how to be a worrier. I didn't even call it worry. I thought I was just thinking about important things, but it made me anxious.
You're taking responsibility. You were responsible or by worrying, or
yes,
it's quite common, right?
I have to think about this to figure it out.
Yeah.
So in my very first training in these principles, I'm in a hotel room at night, and I start thinking about a very important meeting coming up a week later. And it's a lot of contentious ideas and opinions being bantered around, and people are pretty worked up. And the more I thought about it, the more anxious I got. And here I am, not in the meeting, in a hotel room, off on a retreat, basically. And I'm thinking up anxiety. And it's the first time I caught myself. Oh, I'm a thinker. And I fell back into the present moment. Basically, what happens when we're present, we stop thinking about whatever we were thinking about. It's no technique, it's no effort, it's very natural. We do it all the time anyways. But I saw it. And if you really see that holding thought is creating your painful experience, it's built into us to let it go. Just like you put your hand on a hot stove, it's built into us to pull our hand away. So I let go, and my anxiety went away that I had been experiencing minutes before. And I went, oh my gosh. And then I went home and my anxiety became friendly because it started to be the signal to wake me up to the thinking I was doing. And over and again, and in short order, I would say I probably lost 60% of my anxiety just from having a little insight about thought creates my anxiety, not my situations. And I'm going, whoa. If you're trying to hike up a mountain, you have a huge backpack with all this weight on it, and you take off 60% of the weight, it's noticeable. It's noticeable. I really lightened up. Oh man, it was like I felt younger and lighter and happier more of the time. And that was just one little insight, my first insight. Right? And then I had the insight, my second big insight. Well, my very first insight that happened during the training was, what if it's true that I have perfect well-being already? Then I don't have to work so hard to get it. I can just relax in the present moment and I can access it. I started crying. I said, it can't be this simple. but I relaxed and I started just feeling light and open and free. And I started crying. I said, what if maybe it is this simple? Right? That was life-changing. That was my first glimpse of my true self is spiritual. It's formless. It can't be hurt or damaged. And it's full of innate intelligence and deeper feelings and creative potential. That's our true self. And we can all experience it directly. And we can all then have insight into it really is our nature. It was life-changing. And then I had the insight, it's normal to have quality of thought go up and down. And if I'm aware of when I'm in high quality and parent from there and minimize the parenting I do from my low moods and low quality, I could be a phenomenal parent no matter how I was parented in the past. No matter what's going on, no matter what my kids are doing. And I got very particular about what feeling I parented from. And it changed parenting. It's suddenly fun and easy rather than one little upset after another and arguments and wow. So it becomes practical, extremely simple once you start having insight into these principles, into the inside out nature, into very simply, you become more aware of, more conscious of how thought works. So you become more aware of it's only your thinking and holding your thinking that will cover up your well-being. And you become more aware of underneath all my thinking is perfect well-being. That's the 96% of the universe. It's not contracted. Well-being is absence of contraction. Contraction, anger, fear, sorrow, stress, upset is holding thought. Nothing wrong with those feelings. If we understand this, we can feel those feelings, but then it brings us back to the present moment right away. And then our spirits are lifted. Our feelings open up. Sorrow is turned into love. Anger is turned into love. Fear is turned into love. So my teacher, Sid Banks, would say love is always, always the answer, because when your feelings start to open up and radiate when you let go of thought, it's filled with wisdom. It's filled with this knowing. So it'll help you deal with anything going on in your life. So he'd say, realize it's thought and listen for a feeling. And let that feeling guide you. Just trust where it takes you and what words it brings you and what ideas it brings you. It's a feeling. Listen for the feeling. It's in the feeling. Wisdom is always found in a nice feeling. Look for wisdom. Look within. Look toward a quiet mind. Look toward quiet. These are just hints, suggestions of where to look to open up and access our innate well-being.
And I can just look back for myself to start trusting this. Like, can it be that this simple? Can it? Well, I need to think. I need to solve this by the intellect. But that, as I've seen now and heard so many times, also that's like looking in the, I don't know, in a library of books for the solution. It's nothing new. It's old already.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So
it's memory or it's stored information, but it's never new and fresh realization. We can't find what we're looking for in the old. You won't find insights, answers, inspiration, motivation, clarity, perspective, common sense, uplifting thoughts, new and fresh thinking stored in our computer.
Mm.
You don't go to a computer for wisdom, you go for information. You don't go to a computer for love. So if you're having trouble in your relationships, the more you think about it, the further away you get from what you're looking for. You fall out of your thinking, your heart opens up, your feelings start to radiate. You bring that back into your relationship and see what happens. Love is the answer. It's practical. I could tell engineers, love is the answer. You're stuck on a problem. It means you're holding thought and you're wedded to opinion and ideas that you already know, and you're closed off innocently to getting new and fresh thinking, common sense, creative solutions, new ideas. And we're all built for that. Every one of you. Every person is built for that. Whenever we become back to a relaxed, present, quiet mind, we're fully receptive to this deeper feelings of well-being and deeper intelligence that's called wisdom. So then you get the best of both worlds. You can think about things as long as it's helpful. A lot of information gathering and processing is wonderfully helpful, but the instant we're trying to get something out of the computer that's not designed for, the system is designed perfectly. It lets off a little biofeedback warning to say, you've had enough screen time, kids. Close your laptops, put your phones down. You've had enough screen time. Come back to the present, because if you're not living in the present, you won't learn to really enjoy life and live life.
That's a good,
You like that one?
Yeah, a good analogy. I have 2 kids, so, and I mean, like, yes, no, it's enough screen time.
See, I wanted my kids to learn 2 things before they left home. I said, if you understand that every feeling you have is created from thought, you'll naturally begin to let go of upsetting thinking more and more of the time and become more resilient. That's one thing I want you to know, to be able to navigate anything that comes your way in life. The second thing I want you to know is that when you're present and your mind quiets down, the quieter it gets, the more you'll naturally access beautiful feeling. And if you have a quiet mind and a beautiful feeling, you'll have all the common sense you need to deal with any problem that comes your way in life. And I mean this, any problem. And if you understand these 2 things before you leave home, when you leave home, you'll have everything you need to go live a beautiful life and be healthy and happy and navigate with common sense all the negativity that comes your way, all the problems, all the adversity, all the difficulty. We live in the world of thought, and as you understand how to navigate your thinking so that you can be guided by a deeper intelligence and deeper feelings, you'll find your upliftment and guidance within, no matter what situation you're in. No matter what situation you're in. One time I was in a war zone in Peru for a week, and I thought I was going to die, and there was machine guns in my chest and bombs going off and tanks, and I'm on vacation, man. This wasn't on the agenda, right? And I'm by myself for the first time in my life, on vacation by myself, and I'm thinking I'm going to die and never see my wife and kids again. And then I woke up. And I can't explain it. But I got so present and the fear disappeared. Literally. Paralyzing fear. I woke up in the night in a fetal position crying. The fear disappeared, unbelievable presence. And I just had all this knowing on how to navigate for a whole week. And then I had insight into that, and it helped me learn to trust that when I'm having difficulty, if I get out of the way, there's an inbuilt navigation system that's not of the intellect.
Wow. Thank you so much for this. And I'm thinking you're talking about your kids leaving home and navigating, and then I'm thinking of your book Coming Home.
It's sort of like I'm saying to my kids, if you learn to come home when you leave home, you always have a home base that's here that will lift your spirits and guide you through whatever difficulties come your way, and there'll be plenty.
Yeah. So I want to do a shout out to that book, Coming Home: Uncovering the Foundations of the Psychological Well-Being, that you wrote together with Natasha Sverdlov.
Yeah.
And it's really condensed and condensed in a good way. So it's like a lot of insights I got from that, and really recommend it. Really recommend it. And I love the cover.
I took that picture down on the beach in front of our house.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah,
I thought that was just a nice image of people in a boat coming back home from being out on the great ocean of life.
Yeah, and it's a kind of calmness in that picture also with the lake, and
yeah.
So if somebody would like to come in contact with you, what is the best way?
Two ways. One is I have a ton of my talks are on my YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to YouTube and put in Dicken.bettinger channel, I can't tell you how many people, I get emails every single day from people all over the world that have found those talks incredibly helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the talks are on specific topics. My email is dicken.bettinger@gmail.com. I don't do a lot of work with individuals because I do so much training and am involved in so many projects.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean anybody who wants to can't get in touch with me, or if you have a question, I'll see what I can do. But dicken.bettinger@gmail.com. So either of those two ways you can learn more.
Yeah. Great. And I will put links to that into the show notes, and also to 3pgc.com, right?
Yes.
That page also.
Yeah. It's a great website with tons of free materials, and a lot of we're getting more and more videos of Sydney Banks talks, even some earlier ones that hadn't been published before, and they can be found on that website now.
Yeah.
And more are coming, so it's exciting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Really looking forward. So thank you very, very much for this conversation, Dicken, and it's been a pleasure.
Oh, you're welcome, Daniel.
I'm in a good feeling, definitely. So thank you.
That's the point.
Yeah.
You
So
know, it'd be good, Don.
Yeah,
Sid would say, if you're listening to one of my talks in the car, and we used to have tapes to listen to. So if you listen to one of my talks in the car and your mind quiets down and you get into just a good feeling for no reason, roll the window down, take the tape out and throw it out the window. He said, everything I'm teaching will help people wake up out of thought, become more present, and access deeper feeling. That's the whole point of this teaching, is that simple. And once you catch on to that, it does get easier and easier because there's only two things. You have perfect well-being inside, and it gets covered up when we get caught in thought. And when we realize that, we uncover it, and the clouds part and the sun shines back through again. And you start seeing the truth of that more and more deeply. That's it. Keep it simple. That's what Sid would say. Look for simplicity. This is so simple, it's embarrassing.
Thank you very much.
No, you're welcome, Daniel. You're a good man. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
And good luck with your kids. That was my learning ground.
Yeah.
That was where I learned everything I'm sharing with you now.
I think kids is a good teachers.
They're phenomenal teachers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Tack för att du har lyssnat på det här avsnittet. Är det så att du uppskattar den här podcasten så får du självklart dela den vidare till dem du tänker kan ha ett behov av att lyssna på den. Det finns också en möjlighet för dig att boka in sig på ett kostnadsfritt coachingsamtal med mig. Det finns inga förbehåll att du måste ha tankar om att bli coachad, utan du kanske har en frågeställning bara så här: det här skulle vara intressant att bolla med Daniel. Så kan jag hjälpa dig på något sätt så gör jag det mer än gärna. Skicka frågan till mig på daniel@humanchange.se. På hemsidan hittar du även videokursen Nyckeln till stressfrihet. Det är en videokurs som jag tillsammans med Angelica Almqvist har skapat. Och det är ett program då för dig som vill ha ett stressfriare liv. Och några vanliga effekter som man kan se efter det här är då minskad stress, oro, frustration och psykisk ohälsa. Ett ökat lugn, välbefinnande, sinnesro med mera. Tack!